There's a lot of towers in TDS, and not every one of them is as strong as the other ones. Some are better, some are worse. And in today's video, I wanted to point out the absolute worst tower in the game. And for that, I nominated 4 towers for this position. The first one being Scout, second one being Paintballer, third one being Military Base, and fourth one being Commando. Now, if we look by the towers one by one, Scout. Scout is pretty bad. Scout is not a strong tower. It has probably the lowest DPS of all the other towers. It is the cheapest one though. Scout is pretty much an FT tower. You use it pretty much once, you pretty much win your first game or even lose the Molten, and you survive for any other tower. Scout is probably the tower you stop using the moment you get, I don't know, Hunter, Soldier. This is the tower you absolutely stop using at all. You don't ever touch Scout ever again until you get the Golden version. Because Golden version is actually one of the better towers in the game. But the normal version, not so much. The only redeeming quality of this tower is the fact you get it for free at the start. And you can win easy mode, and probably Molten as well with friends, using just Scout and the free sniper. And that's only useful thing about Scout. Now, Paintballer. I know a lot of people who just think this tower is the worst. I think so otherwise. This tower is one of the cheapest early game options you can have, even in Fallen. It does become pretty much pointless after wave 10. It only becomes kinda relevant again after the breakers come out. But you'd be surprised on how much Paintballer can actually clear in the early game. His splash radius is, I think, one of the bigger ones from all the other splash damage towers at the level 0. The splash radius of this tower is absolutely insane. While Demo Man, for example, can only deal damage like 1 or 2 more zombies at a time, Paintballer can deal like damage like 5 enemies at once if you have the right targeting. But other than that, this tower is pretty bad. The only useful thing about this tower is being able to clear early game waves fast and cheap, and be kinda useful on the breakers if you spam it enough. But other than that, this tower is not that great, but it is definitely better than Scout. The Military Base. This tower is, as I said before in the previous videos, it's probably one of the biggest noob traps in the game. A lot of people like this tower. I don't know why. This tower has very low DPS. It becomes absolutely useless after breakers come out. Any breaker can just one-shot this tower, even a tank. Like 20 HP breaker can one-shot the tank if it spawns on top of him. And the only redeeming quality of this tower is, I think, level 2 and maybe level 4 the tank. Going for level 5 is pretty much never worth it. Military Base has its own use still in hardcore, so while it is a pretty bad tower, I would say it's still better than Scout is. Military Base is just one of the towers you don't really use. It has also the limit of just 5, so what's even the point of getting this tower in the game? It's pretty bad. Scout and Military Base is pretty much an FT tower. Paintballer is just a tier above Military Base and Scout. It's still bad, but it's not as bad as those two. Now, for the last tower, we have Commando. Commando has horrible cost efficiency. It costs 22,000 to max out, and all it does is like 50 DPS, which is probably the worst in the game when it comes to cost efficiency. Minigunner is literally 2 times better than Commando. Another problem with Commando is, despite being the mid-game, late-game tower, it doesn't have any hidden detection. It can damage hidden enemies with its splash damage, but good luck with that. Splash damage on this tower is pretty much useless. And to be honest, from all those 4 towers, Scout, Paintballer, Military Base and Commando, I personally think that Commando is the worst of them all. While all the other towers can be somewhat useful, like Scout, as I said, at the start of the game, it can win you games. Paintballer, it can be pretty useful for early game, Fallen and Molten, and also for the breakers. Military Base, it can also be kinda useful early game, especially level 2, And maybe level 4 for the giant bosses. But Commando? There has been like no strategies involving Commando ever. Commando cost efficiency just does not allow this tower to ever be useful in anything. The only thing I can think of this tower ever being useful is if you have loadout like this. Like sniper and paintballer and whatever else. Like if Commando is the highest dealing DPS tower you can have in your loadout, then yes, it can be useful. You have max tower limits, so you just start pressing commandos. But why would you bring Commando? Like, you sabotage your team by doing this. You're actively making the game harder for yourself. And it's not just a case of like, or just minigunner or anything being just slightly better. It's being better than Commando in every way. From all those horrible towers we have in game, Commando, I think, is the worst of them all. You cannot make Commando useful. Ever, at least in my opinion. Other towers have some bit of usefulness. Like, at least a little bit. Commando does not. Like, if you bring this tower, you either didn't play the game for like 4 years, and this is the first game you are playing, or you're actually trolling. Anyways, that's pretty much it.